Hi, I'm Stephen Hand from Archery Supplies, and today I want to do part 3 of improving your archery. Now in the first part I spoke about shooting a lot and having confidence in your shooting. That is the number one thing I consider to be the most important. Even if you do stuff wrong, if you do it consistently wrong, you'll be very good. And in the Las Vegas shoot, the person who won the $100,000, he was pulling right into his face, not the way you teach someone to shoot. You won $100,000. So that's what I consider to be the most important. The second most important was the grip, which was part 2. Part 3 is what I consider the third most important, which is the release. So now with the release, the first thing I want to look at is the position of your arm, so this part of my arm, in relation to the arrow. So this arm here should be basically hidden in the same line as the arrow. Now if your arm's out like this, you're not going to have the correct tension in your back, and you're going to throw arrows out to the side. By keeping it in line with the arrow, you're less likely to move left or to move right. Now you can be a little bit out to the left there, and then when you take your shot, your hand comes back. Perfectly acceptable and maybe more comfortable for you. But generally you want your arm, your forearm, to be in the same line as your arrow. Now the most important thing to do when you're shooting is this release is to come back when you shoot. And the way I describe this is if you're pulling on a rope and someone cuts the rope or someone lets go of the rope, you fall backwards. That's exactly what should happen to this hand. Now I'm going to start off, I'm going to shoot a back tension release ode, and I'll demonstrate that. So in every shot, after I make the shot, I want this hand to fly backwards, come back, and I kind of want to touch my neck or my ear, and let's kind of see where it goes. So that's one of the things. After the shot, after I make my shot, I look at, am I aiming at the target still, and what's my form after the shot? I should feel pressure between my shoulder blades. That's what I call, or some people would call, back tension. So basically the tension is in between my blades on my back, pulling, and when I pull, this should pull backwards. So my arm should basically disappear, and let's just take a shot and see how that works. Now I'm obviously not straight in front of the camera, so you'll be able to see a bit of my arm, but when I release, my hand comes straight back. I'll do that one more time. And what you should be feeling is the pressure in your back. You should be able to feel those shoulder blades come together. You should be able to feel your arm come back, and the whole thing, it's a pressure release. So when you make that shot, the whole pressure in your back comes off. That's a nice feeling. Not like when you shoot a gun, you get this big explosion in your hand. This is to me, this is a nice feeling when you make the shot. So that's the feeling I want to have. Now if you don't have enough pressure in your back, because with a compound bow you're shooting a high let off and you're just holding the bow. Now when you're holding the bow and you take that shot, if your hand comes out to the side, so you're generally looking to see where my arrow went, and your hand comes out to the side, this shows me that you're not pulling and not using your back tension. And if your hand comes out to the side like this, often does on beginners, the people will be making left and right shots on the target. So I'm going to shoot now a thumb release ode. If I get one of the ones out of my pouch. Now when you shoot a thumb release ode, what you want is the thumb to be pretty soft. And this is why you pay the big money to get the good releases. Now when you shoot a thumb, you don't want to be punching. If you're punching the trigger, and you know, I'm a classic puncher, if you're punching that trigger, you're probably not going to have the tension in your back, and your hand's going to just sit there. So you're going to go punch, and the hand's going to just sit there. Also not good, because you're not having that tension in your back to hold the shot steady. So let's just take a shot, if I can remember how to use this trigger. It's been so long since I've shot this trigger. It's kind of rust. It's all tarnished up because it's brass. Let's see how I go with this one. So when I'm pushing this button, and people can talk about how you push this button, whether you hold your hand or twist your hand around to apply pressure to that button, but basically you're pushing this button. When you're pushing this button, you want to push it very, very slowly. Not this, not like I'm aimed, when do I release? You don't want to be thinking that. You want to be aim in the center, slowly, bang, it's gone. You don't want to know when it's gone. You want it to be a complete surprise. Now it's going to be hard for beginners to do that, and up close it's not really an issue. Now this release I'm going to shoot, this is a cheap release. I'm not going to show you what it is, but it's a cheap release aid. Now the sensitivity on this is not as good, so this is much harder for me to shoot. I'm not showing you what it is because I haven't done a review on it yet. And it's so controversial, I don't want to really do it. But the trigger is not as tight, okay? So it requires more pushing. Now for me that was much harder to get off because I was like, I want this to go, I want it to go, please go, and it's still not going because the trigger to me is much harder. I still want the breakaway shot to come through, I still want that arm to come backwards on the shot, but it's much harder to get with a cheaper release aid. With the cheaper release aid, you're more likely to go punch and not have that tension in your back. You can still get the shots off, and when I was a junior I shot with a $50 release aid and I won. But anyway, cheap release aids harder to shoot, more expensive ones are easier to shoot, but you still require good form and still want the basics of this follow through to happen. Now I'm going to do another video on recurve shooting and same principles apply, and I'll explain how that works with a recurve, but that was my compound one over. So release aid, all you want to think is cutting a rope, how your hand falls back, and that's the reaction you want to have. Now on the odd occasion when you do finish out here, bring your hand back around and go, that's not what I want. Now if you are having trouble getting that feeling, you can always have someone press the button for you to see what it should feel like in the shot, or just shoot with your eyes closed, right up to the target, you know, like 1 meter away from the target. Close your eyes, pull back the bow, make sure you're aimed at the target obviously because you don't want to lob an arrow over the neighbour's fence, and just feel the shot because the hand should come back once you are not expecting it. So that's the feeling, and to me that's the third most important thing about shooting, getting a good release off. I know it's been a while between the videos. Anyway, thanks for watching, and the more you shoot, the better you'll shoot, the steadier you'll be, the stronger you'll be. And even with my new bow here that I've been shooting, I've just got to shoot it lots to become steadier. At the moment I'm shaking around a little bit, I'm shooting really well, but I am shaking around more than I need to shoot a really high score, and it's just going to take me time to build up those muscles and I don't shake around as much as I need to, as much as I want to, I don't know, whatever that means. Basically I will be steadier the more I shoot. My muscles will become stronger, I'll have less fatigue. At the moment I do have knots in my back shoulder blades, in the back from shooting, and I've got to let those sort of settle. So one of these things, you've got to take time. You can't just jump in and go, I'm going to shoot lots and lots of arrows and get knots in your back straight away, because it's going to take time. It's going to take time for those knots to go. Anyway, so I'm Stephen Hand from Archery Supplies. I hope that's been helpful. Thank you. Bye.